Hi, I'm Chris Manners, the District Manager for the Texas region for Yamaha School Service Division. And joining me today is Dave Gerhardt, who is Assistant Manager for the Education Market at Yamaha. He comes to us after teaching at California State University at Long Beach, where he was lecturer in percussion. Dave, I know that you normally love coming into Texas in July for TBA and enjoying the river walk and humidity and such. And I know you're missing it right now out in sunny Southern California, but welcome virtually to the state of Texas for the convention this year.
Well, thank you, Chris. Yeah, that sounds weird. Missing being in Texas in July, but no, I don't miss being in Texas in July. I miss hanging out with all the great educators that are in Texas during this
You've
time.
got a lot of friends down here, that's for sure. Well, you know, these last 4 months, we've spent way more time on Zoom meetings and webinars than we could ever imagined. And here we are doing yet another virtual thing. But you know, hopefully this will be of value to the educators here. You know, one of the things that you've been involved in as part of our education department is you are attending and hosting a lot of these virtual meetings, and you've been really probably more focused on the advocacy part of music education than anything. And I know that a lot of these meetings have been shining a light on the challenges that all educators face, especially those in music education. And during your participation in these, you've kind of found some key points that have really come to top of mind for you. And you just want to take an opportunity to share some of your ideas for these two main points.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first off, it's great to be with you. It's always great to hang and talk. Yeah, there has been a ton of webinars. I think we counted 9 different ways that we communicate on video with the different services. So
Wow.
It's, you know, it's been a learning curve, but there has been a lot of things that have been happening on different platforms, and we've been trying to cover all of it and watch all of it. And one thing I wanted to do is I wrote an article for our blog, and I wanted to bring everything together in one spot to really talk about how to advocate for your program. And the 2 main things I really want to stress today are, number one, we have to have an open dialogue with our administrators, and it's got to be positive. We have to have that constant. We don't have to be negative, but we have to just make sure that our administrators know that we are caring about our program. And the other thing that is really important is we really can't wait for our administrators to tell us what the plans are going to be. We need to start creating our plans now and presenting them to our administrators, because they have so many issues that they have to deal with in the school setting. They're not thinking about every little thing, and if we aren't advocating for our program, things are going to be not great next year. So the more we can start creating our plans and opening those conversations, the better our programs and our students are going to be in the coming year.
Oh, definitely. You know, in your blog post that you did, one of the quotes that I thought was pretty amazing, Barry Trobaugh, I guess is his name, and he's from Munford High School in Tennessee. And the quote was, "The decisions for your future are being made right now." I mean, that's a pretty amazing quote. And again, I think what you're saying is that this is your opportunity as an educator to go to your administration, your principal, your fine arts supervisor, you know, whoever that is, and get out in front of this and be able to make some of these determinations that are really going to impact not only this school year, but even going forward.
Correct.
So how do we start? I mean, how's the whole process start for a music educator?
Well, I think the first thing as educators is, you know, we have to go out and do the research. We've got to see the people that are making these plans, either the CDC, or we know that Colorado State just introduced their preliminary study on the aerosol study that they've been working on. So we have to have these in our pocket so that we can go to our administrator with our plans saying, you know, this is what this organization is saying, this is what this organization is saying, and this is how I'm going to tackle it in our program for next year. You know, we don't know, a lot of school districts don't know if they're going to be all virtual next year or whether they're going to be in person. So coming up with those plans, and the first thing that I would do is do that research and then just start brainstorming. Go online and read some articles. You know, there's a lot of questions on the blog post that I wrote, but there's a lot of communities out there. Just start brainstorming. If you're going to be online, what are you going to do with your students to make sure that your students have a music education and arts education? If you're going to be in the classroom, what are you going to do to teach those students effectively? Just start brainstorming. And the more things that you come up with fitting into these studies that are out there, the better your students are going to be and have that arts education next year.
Well, and again, the more satisfied administration is because you are coming up with these ideas, right? I mean, ideally, that's what we're looking at. Like you said earlier, our administrators are worrying about so many different things. But for the educator to go in, do the research, and then be able to present these ideas to administration as to how to move forward, whether it's all virtual, all in class, or some hybrid of the two. Again, we're all wondering what that is.
Right. And if you're directing a marching band, you know, how many students are you going to have out there? What are the distance? Are they going to wear masks? You know, all those different things. You have a plan, and you're talking to your administrator and making sure that you're bringing those solutions to them. Be goal oriented in those solutions, not, oh my God, we can't do this because of this. They don't want to hear that. They're hearing that from everyone else. Be solution oriented.
Yeah, very good. So you've gone in and you've presented this information to the administration. Again, whether it's principal or whoever, what's the next step after talking with your administration?
Well, after your administration, I would start at the school board level and go out and advocate for your programs. You have to remember that members of the school board are part of the community. They may not be educators. We need to make sure that they understand things like ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act. And ESSA tells us that arts and music are part of a well-rounded education. And it's the law that arts and music need to be taught as part of a well-rounded education. They may not know that. So how do you get in to tell them these things? Well, the first way is, number one, during a public comment session. Now, I don't want to say all, but a lot of school boards now are using Zoom or other platforms to have school board meetings. So you email your Board of Education and ask them to be part of that public comment section. That's the first step. Getting them to know about ESSA, getting them to know about why music is so important for our students as we continue. The other way is, another way to access your Board of Education is to see who in the community knows one of these members, or calling them directly and seeing if you can set up a meeting with them so that they understand the importance of an arts education. The main thing that you want to try and do, and this is difficult because all school boards are now dealing with budget cuts and everything else that's going on, but if you can be part of the agenda of a school board meeting, then the school board members can ask you questions. The public comment section, they are not allowed to ask you questions. So you can go in and you can advocate for your program and for arts education, but they're not allowed to ask you questions. If you get onto the agenda and you are part of the school board meeting, you can present, you know how long you have, maybe you get 10 minutes. You can present for 5 and then open it up for questions so the board can interact with you and ask questions and why it's important. And having these studies, you know, having the research back to be able to present that and let the school board know. Because remember, school board members are community members and they may not know about the importance of arts education or music education.
That's true. And really, in many ways, they don't really understand why what music educators do is of so importance. I mean, it's what the value is to our culture, to our society, to the families that are in their district. I mean, the phrase that we've been using is, why we do what we do. Why a music educator does the things that they do day in and day out to make this difference. And the challenge really sometimes is to make sure that the school board understands exactly what it is why this is so important.
Yeah, definitely. And, partners like the NAFME, who's the National Association for Music Education, they have a great document called The Arts Education is Essential. You could take that document and make sure all of your board members know about that.
Mm.
This document would have been signed by major art advocacy people in organizations throughout the United States, as well as major music corporations. Arts education is essential, and we need to have these facts to present to our board members so that it's not this esoteric thing. We really want to have those facts so that they know. Arts for LA has a great, and I quote this in the blog post, they have a great method that they call the 5-4-3 method. So they say that students with an arts education are 5 times more likely to stay in school. They're 4 times more likely to be recognized for academic achievement, and they're 3 times more likely to get a bachelor's degree. So presenting facts like that to your board members will hopefully let them know how important music is. The other main key is SEL, or social emotional learning. We are fortunate in the United States to have people like Bob Morrison or Scott Edgar who are writing articles and doing webinars. And Scott has a great book called Advocating for Music Education, Utilizing Social Emotional Learning. And social emotional learning is going to be so important to our students as they start to transition back to school, whether it's online or in person. And we really, more than ever, it's so important that we help advocate for our programs and let teachers or let board members and our administrators know why social emotional learning is important. If you think about it, a student in a high school takes a math class, and they may have the same teacher for 1 semester or for 1 year, and then they go on to their sophomore year and they have a new teacher. A music teacher has a association or a relationship with their students over a 4-year period. And music, I mean, just think of those amazing opportunities that music creates. We have those amazing football games where we play in front of thousands of people, and we play pep songs, and we get the crowd going, and then we go out and we play on the field, or we do the same, we play in the orchestra, and we have this amazing performance on a stage, or like singing in the choir. You have those relationships with this one teacher or group of teachers over 4 years, and no other program has that opportunity to do that. So the social emotional learning and just helping the students transition and making sure that music is a part of that transition is, it's always been important and it always will be important, but more than ever, it's the most important thing that we can really help give to our students in the coming years.
Well, from my standpoint personally, being somebody who's moved a few times working for a company, that peer group that my kids were a part of being in the band program was critical. As anybody can imagine, anytime you move and you uproot your kids from their friends and that type of thing, and it's very difficult. And going into schools, both times, my daughter and my son, we moved as they were going into 9th grade. And the fact that they could go into those band programs and kind of plug in right away and have that really strong peer group, having those band directors, those music educators who do foster those types of relationships as a whole. When somebody new comes in, they get the kids kind of plugged in. So yeah, that social emotional type learning thing that you're talking about, it's a very broad spectrum. I think sometimes we try to make it too narrow when we talk about some of these things, but again, from a personal standpoint, that peer group to me was critical for my kids' success in school. Well, the other thing then, after we've gone to the school board and we've kind of given some of the information, there's definitely power in numbers. And one of the quotes that Helen Keller had was, Alone, we can do so little, but together we can do so much. And when you're going before a school board, or even a parent group, you know, what is the value of getting a group of educators together to bring these kinds of ideas in front of their students and parents?
Well, I think obviously power in numbers. I mean, we have those advocating for our program, whether it be the teachers, the parents, whoever. The more people that are saying how important this is, the more people are going to listen. But, how do we build those teams? I think the first way is you go and you start talking to other teachers in your district and friends, friends that you went to college with. What are they dealing with? And you start brainstorming and you figuring out, okay, well, I never thought of it that way, but that would be perfect for my program. And you start putting together those groups. You start having conversations with the parents. You have your booster program if you're in a high school. You have your students that you can come together and you can have Zoom meetings with your leadership, with the section leaders and the drum majors, and just being open and communicating with them and building that team, and just talking and brainstorming so that you have a cohesive plan, so the district knows that you're not just some rogue person that is coming up with this plan, but you've come together and you've thought it out step by step. This is how we're going to do it. And then really having that written down and communicating it, I think it's so important to have an open communication with the parents so that the parents feel safe that when their son or daughter is with you in your program, are you taking the steps that are appropriate to make sure that they're safe and that they're healthy? And,
Mm.
you know, communicating that, because things are changing. We know, daily, weekly, monthly, everything is changing. And just being upfront, here's what I'm reading, here's the steps we're taking. I've talked to our administration supports me 100%, and here's the plans that we're going to do. If you have any concerns, reach out and let's have a conversation. But just so that you're transparent and that you're communicating, and I think everyone will feel more safe. And building
Well,
that team, yeah, I mean,
yeah. You've talked. One of the things that you've talked about in the past is being flexible too. Like with all these changes, you've got to be able. You need to be transparent, but at the same time, you've got to be able to morph into whatever situation you have to do. Right.
right. And being flexible and always remaining positive. You are the role model for these students. You need to exude that positivity so that they know that you're thinking about the steps, that you're caring for their students and for their sons or daughters, and just making sure that you're creating a safe environment to the best of your knowledge, and that you're continuing this research. And it's a lot, I get it. We're running rehearsals and extra rehearsals because we can only have so many kids at a rehearsal, and how do I have time to read all these things? Well, that's how your community also helps, because you can't read everything. There's no way you can read everything. But if you have a community and you're having a regular meeting maybe once a week, someone could say, hey, did you read this? Oh, I haven't, but this is what comes out of it. And, oh, okay, well, this is great. So that you have that team and that community, and they'll help you support music, and making sure that music is a part of our students' lives from now and forever.
Yeah. Yeah. And, being here in Texas, being back in Texas and these strong programs, that it's there are great processes here. There are great people and there are great processes. And we see such a strong music education foundation here in Texas. But I think, what we're looking at now is those processes may have to be adjusted a little bit because of the way this pandemic has created different scenarios that we're all going to have to work under. And, hopefully the ideas that we come up with, these plans that we come up with, can be integrated into the programs, not just during this pandemic, but hopefully we learn things that are really valuable that we can use when things get back to whatever normal is going to be going forward. And again, that flexibility is part of that. The team thing that you're talking about is part of that. How do we build and adjust processes for what the future is going to be?
Correct. Yeah, and you have your local community, there's tons of communities online. You know, we have a great music educator community that's online as well, which I'll link to in the video, as well as, you know, there's a ton of resources on this site, that on the blog post, that you can go back and reference, and just, you know, be active, be positive, communicate, and make sure music is a part of our students' lives now and for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and from our perspective, to all the educators who are taking time to be with us today, we want you to be encouraged. You know, we understand that there's a lot of things going on right now, and there's a book I read years ago from Dale Carnegie. It was Stop Worrying and Start Living. And the basic premise of the book, to paraphrase it, was, you know, you think about what could be the toughest. Now, you know, what could be the worst situation, but, you know, what could be the toughest situation you can imagine from where you are right now, and you plan for that. I mean, whatever the worst is, whatever the toughest is, you plan for that, so that whatever happens, if it's, you've already planned for the toughest.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever happens, it's not up to there. You're already ready for it. And it was a really great book. It really helped in terms of thinking through things, and going, okay, if I plan for this, I'm ready for anything. So, you know, we just want to make sure that we encourage you to stay positive, as Dave is saying, and to be proactive. You know, be the advocates that you are, not just for music education, but for your students and your schools. And we want you to know that we'll do whatever we can to help. I know that on some of the virtual sites for band, choir, and orchestra here at our virtual conference this year, you'll find my phone number, my email address, and also Dave's phone number and email address. And please know if there's anything that we can do. Me as a district manager here, and Dave as part of our education department, you know, we're ready to help. We both have gone through music programs. Music has been a part of our identities forever, and we know how important that is. And there's really nothing more honorable than for us to be involved in something that gets more kids involved in music. So anything that we can do, please let us know. Definitely check out the Yamaha Educator Suite that's on the web, and then also on we have a Facebook page for that as well. And you'll be seeing Dave posting a lot more stuff, more information. But in the meantime, again, please reach out to us if we can be of any help. I hope the rest of this conference is great, and I hope that we all get ready for this next school year, whatever it may bring our way. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you.